Hey, remember Marstar Bro, the former composer and director for Versus Sonic.exe? You know, the arrogant little shit that harasses fans. Well, instead of apologizing for that, he just ran off of Twitter. But, and this is the funny part, he was still fucking there, as when some troll tagged him and Egg on Twitter, he immediately blocked Egg. I don't know what to say, it's just funny. Alright, Kenny, bald that he is, once had a random breakdown on Twitter, asking if he matters. That led to a lot of cocksucking from Anorak, Indeed, who called him a fucking father figure, Uptaunt, Avery, Jasper, and probably other big people I missed. Someone who didn't know him even said that he must matter because many people like him, which is pretty funny. But seriously, do not blindly follow this manchild who will destroy livelihoods over petty personal grudges. He didn't only try to do this to Jasper. Honestly though, this isn't all that relevant, I just added this bit for fun. However, eventually he did leave the platform, was still a dickhead to someone we'll get back to later, and then deleted his account. Just a month later, the bald bitch came back as he is insanely addicted to Twitter. Okay, I think it's time that we go back to his doc for a second, as it was made during this absence, and the third part is all about that. It's really just cheap pulling at the heartstrings. He does say that he hopes people can forgive him, but that's real fucking vague. Honestly, it's just frustrating how annoyingly vague everyone likes to be in this community. He says that he is actually afraid to return due to his mutuals all turning out to be horrible, and it's definitely not because he fears people like me who call him out on his bullshit. They do not deserve my words after all I did for them, like actively trying to ruin Jasper's life? Fuck you, Kenny, just fuck you. But luckily I can show you something positive regarding Kenny. Now, very recently, Wells, a composer you might know from the convo he had with Uptaunt, talked directly with Kenny. On Kenny's server, Wells tricked him into accepting his friend request and going into DMs. Here's some interesting stuff to note from those DMs. Kenny, for some reason, genuinely hates Revie, which is fucking random considering how ambivalent he acted to Justify. He then, months later, still complains about the Toastify stream. Get over it, you're an adult man. And apparently Revie going into VC with Toastify proves that she only cares about publicity and not the truth. Yeah, definitely can't be because she actually wants to talk to him directly and clear shit up, or, you know, let him ask questions, something you refuse to let people do. But she's just such a rotten person. Yeah, shut the fuck up, Kenny. Let's just make it a hashtag at this point. Shut the fuck up, Kenny. Then there's just the typical boring bullshit of someone refusing to separate the art from the artist. Afterwards, when Wells wanted to get a link to Toastify's stream, Kenny said it provides really negative feelings for him. Probably because he doesn't want to be reminded of how fucking childish he was. Wells then talks about the guy who got Revie into that stream, you know who it was in a second, and Kenny is upset with both them and Revie. Why am I not surprised, Kenny? Oh, and also, him saying I'm firm on my stance about her and it won't change, that just shows he fell into the sunk cost fallacy. Don't fall to a sunk cost fallacy when it comes to, you know, life-ruining accusations. Just don't. It makes you look like a moron. Then, when Uptaunt is mentioned, Kenny says they're all bad, and mentions multiple people, even Jasper, who he himself tried to ruin. Genuinely go fuck yourself, Kenny. You don't even know how much stress you caused me with just that one fucking chapter. Eventually, Wells revealed that he is the one who got Revie into the VC, so Kenny fucking blocks him. This is just peak boldness for Kenny. Also, again, just a small thing that annoys me. His usage of tone indicators is like borderline offensive to me. The overusage of /gen makes my fucking blood boil, and I hate how he makes a genuinely useful tool for online communication look like a cheap gimmick. Thank you, Kenny.
Remember MarioBot, who GameReel mentioned a while back to show how hypocritical this community is? Yeah, he's back now. He just showed up after getting cancelled. There was no major backlash or anything. Hell, even Rightburst openly supported him after he came back. It's like no one cares how much of a piece of shit he is. In fact, none of you cunts give a flying fuck about who you cancel, do you? This next one's not that big, so let's just get it over with. First things first, Kubikorg was exposed, but EXE Burner focuses on her being almost 18. No, she was 17, her partner was 16, don't do this. The two also ERP'd and she made some comments that were apparently without consent, but her partner did not make it clear that they didn't consent. You can't blame Kubi for not knowing. What you can blame Kubi for, though, is pestering her partner to make CP. Yes, she did that. Oh, and apparently there's more manipulation, but that can't be confirmed. So while most of the thread isn't that bad, the CP part is actually a flag more red than the USSR flag. Oh, and GPT Anon came back to call out Adam McCummins again, as well as pointing out how he close sources his shit and is a major dickhead. While neither of these are worth canceling him over, he does use the Revie disaster as an excuse to do so. Close sourcing your shit in the Friday and Funkin community, which is all about being as open source as it can be, is just all around uncool, greedy, and it defeats the purpose. Due to how this next part is as separate from everything as it is, I'll just go over the important part. The voice actor Glitchy Will cheated on his partner with Jasper, of all people. What makes it weirder is that his partner was 15 when he is 18, yet he cheated, so it's just really confusing. That's all I'll say on this, just bringing it up if it's ever important again.
Okay, this is a situation I was way too vague about last time, so let me explain it properly. Remember how Mario Bot said, just say you wish you were groomed by Revie? Yeah, that was in response to Robo, a then 14-year-old, releasing a dog calling out the executives and saying that Revie isn't a pedo. Not even defending her actions, just saying she isn't a pedo. If you recall the DMs with Comment Avery, those were part of this dog. She collected all these. Part of that dog was a situation where Nebula, a known fucking leaker, leaking some shit, and then her and Avery trying to frame Robo for that. When Robo eventually exposed Nebula for being the leaker, they lied about it being a fake account, but that's bullshit too. Honestly, Robo got dealt a way too shit hand in general. Allow me to digress for a second. Okay, this specific situation is pretty fucking dark, so if you decide that you want to look further into it through my evidence folder, I say you should be warned at least that it's not going to be pretty reading through all that. So, what exactly happened? A few sociopaths decided to dox Robo and threaten her mother's life. The reason? Some bullshit claims of her sending porn to minors when that isn't the case, and other fake or exaggerated claims. This led to a serious mental health spiral where it looked really fucking bad for her, but she's better now, thank God. I can't tell you how fucking stressed I was. But here's a weird thing. Madman decided to claim that it was the Versus Bench Tales devs who doxed her, which is just false, as they themselves have said. And for context as to why she made up that bullshit claim, it's that Bench Tales first called Madman out, and now she is just fucking salty. Actually, now that I think about it, let's talk about Madman's wrongdoings for a bit. Yes, this subchapter was actually a clever segue. Get fucked. I believe that for the start of this chapter at least, we need to talk about everything that happened on November 21st, just for context. Now strap in, because this next bit might be the last time I ever talk about Madman Halloween positively in any way. All this started with her making a thread announcing her departure from Exeternal, a mod she herself started. The team was generally unpleasant, but the worst was still Reina. For real, she didn't just actively treat Madman like shit, Reina apparently even tried to cancel her for leaking her own mod. Something she'd have every right to if it's her own work, but we'll get to the leaking in a second. Yet despite how disgusting she acts, and keep in mind, she faked a fucking screen cap to frame Madman, she was always accepted back by the team. Then there's Noitroa, another piece of shit that when Madman came out as trans in the dev server, deleted that message and spouted some borderline transphobic bullshit in DMs. It had interesting lines like, some felt uncomfortable, it's not Madman's fault that people have internalized transphobia, or not about minors, like, bro, trans kids having a trans role model would be fucking great for them, what the fuck do you mean? But for real though, there's nothing about trans people that's bad for kids to see, that's just a transphobic lie. Hey, Gamer back for yet another small correction. Like yesterday I got in contact with Noitroa and he gave me a small statement regarding this whole situation, and showed me a public statement he made. Basically, he didn't intend to come off as transphobic, it was just a moment where his emotions got to him, and he is genuinely sorry for it. Now that doesn't really change my argument, as I didn't consider him to be transphobic either way, but I think that it's only fair to share this. Ironically enough, Madman then even confirms that there were trans minors in the server. Then Reina defends Noitroa and says that they actually made a good point and aren't transphobic. No Reina, that's just internalized transphobia. Nothing more, nothing less. After a couple of arguments, Madman snapped and, wanted to leak and kill X-Eternal. Wait, what? Okay, no. Keep this readiness to leak something in mind for later. Now the whole situation with Neutra is just settled and it's kinda awkward, but apparently Madman is still getting actively villainized in the server. She requests her work to be removed from the project and that's about it. Okay, this next part is where the real fun begins. Robo posted some proof of Madman trying to manipulate someone into taking Faker from Revie, then wanting to fake screen caps for it using her knowledge of Rev being suicidal from manipulation, then just generally being two-faced about her and admitting to leaking and destroying 3.0. Keep in mind, these aren't random claims, these are her own fucking words. Oh, and apparently she said the N-word in the call. Honestly, this is a minor thing in my eyes. Now, for some extra evidence, I'll leak my own chat with her. Dick move, I know, but I don't really care. Now, I was told that she wanted to talk to Rev in order to discuss some personal situation. I sent her a burner account Rev made. It apparently went so well that she gave Madman her main at the time. Here's the weird thing. The personal situation was Revie yelling, "I have a bomb" on a call, which Madman even agrees was funny. Then why the fuck bother discussing it? Now, the trust Revie shows in giving Madman her main is pretty big here, making it very possible that she told Madman that she was suicidal. This is not a confirmation though, this is just, something that makes it reasonable to assume that that could be the case. Then, Madman's reaction to the callout was very weird. First of all, there's that old identity thing. She says on a Twitter account, still called Madman Halloween, with nothing making the new name clear. Then there's also that never knowing that Revie was suicidal thing, and yeah, this truly can't be easily proven, but it's definitely a reasonable assumption. Still, I will give this one to Madman. But I will not give her the bench tail shit. Don't pull other beefs into this to hide. Then there's also her saying that people should stop saying that she leaked 3.0, but Robo only said bah! You said that you leaked it, Madman. Nobody else. Next up, that N-word bullshit. I don't really care too much about this because one word does not equal racism, but shit you do high is still part of your subconscious. Then in the next tweet, wait, why the fuck did you even ask Revie for Faker? I got you in contact just for the personal shit. Damn, you really just went behind my back like that, huh? But as if God gives me a sign that I should calm down, Madman just drops the objectively funniest line I have ever read in the creation of this video. Racism also runs throughout my family. Great stuff, great stuff. Then later on, the random claim that Robo is the bench tails dev is only supported by DMs of them speaking about each other. The fuck? Robo then responds with yet another call out. There's no shit like an old message of Madman saying that she doesn't drink or take drugs, and proof that she actively deleted messages. Robo also responds to Madman's statements that it's fucked she recorded a private call with the statement that she, Madman, apparently said in the VC that she jacked off to Robo's Sona, so she recorded everything from then on to make sure to have evidence. Christ! Anywho, Madman then also slanders Robo by saying that she's on Reina's side. Where the fuck does this come from? And immediately goes into suicide mode again, then gives away everything she owns on the internet. She also later made a Twitter space where she wrote a fucking suicide note. Robo then came in to cheer her up, but later found out that it was just bait. Now, that pissed her off immensely, as she herself attempted to kill herself just days before this. It was not a fun time for her. Like I said, that dox and everything around it fucked her up. Now, as a quick side note, I just want to say that Madman actually suicide baiting does not negate what KG or others did before. He couldn't know for sure and still knowingly made that assumption, which is still disgusting. That's the same with Reina and everyone else who mistreated this cunt. Two wrongs don't make a right. If you treat a shit person like shit, you're also a shit person. Nobody cares about your shitty justification. Then, just hours later, Madman came back complaining about how Robo recorded a private call, called her a bench tails dev, and then said that she, Madman, didn't know Revie was suicidal. Now about that private call recording, your GF's got nothing to worry about. I've seen Russian dashcam videos with higher bit rates. But then she also does some schizo rant about being happy to see X-Eternal burn and making up random bullshit to explain why Robo called her out. Then she deactivated again. Then she came back yet again, now claiming that Robo framed her. With her own fucking words? But this is all she did, right? This has to be it. Wait, it's not? What do you mean it's not? Yeah, remember the stock GPT Anon teased? You know, the one that Madman then blindly denied and hid from her audience? that shit got cancelled because she apparently bribed someone who worked on it. But yeah, I got my hands on some of the evidence. Let me share that shit. Of course, number 1, she helped make Sling Mingo, a notorious leaker, into who he is now, according to her own words. There's also then proof that she was in contact with Revie to get her hands on Faker. And you know, if you abuse my trust like that, at least get my fucking name right after I correct you on it. Then there's also a lot more shit regarding her being a leaker, you know, like admitting to being in the leaking scene, her leaking a lot of shit, presumably external, her leaking even more shit, potentially the original 3.0, her leaking Triple Trouble Encore with some of the original parts from 3.0. So yeah, this is what I got, who knows if there's more. Oh wait, there is more? Okay, this has been added very late to my script. This is literally just days after it happened, and I added it on the same day of this recording. So let's get into it. Instead of the promise doc to show how she was slandered by Robo, we got a mega thread of her defending herself. So let's just do this. Racism and pedo claims are cleared up first. I never thought she was either, but that's besides the point. Now here, once again, we get some funny quotes. There's apparently no proof of her jacking off to Robo Sona, which is true, although we'll get to something quite interesting in a second. And then she also apologizes for the N-word, good on her. Afterwards, she provides proof of her not beating it to Robo Sona. What the fuck, this is just screen caps of her saying, nah, this ain't it, chief. Why the fuck should I trust the words of a known manipulator? But then, eventually, FQ, if you pronounce their name like that, a friend of Robo's, confirmed it to be BS in DMs of Madman and supposedly cleared it up. That turned out to be a lie in order to get Madman to fuck off. Okay, back to the mega friend. She clarifies that she didn't leak 3.0, but Crybit supposedly did. Wow, this adult is seriously trying to throw hands with a fucking 14-year-old now, huh? This leads to yet another thread because nobody in this community knows how to be concise. She then shows that Crybit leaked shit, which, okay, yeah, cool, but that doesn't disprove you leaking shit, and Robo's still quote-unquote working with him. Nah mate, they're just friends, not fucking co-workers. What the hell are you saying?
Something you wouldn't understand since you don't have any friends.
She then calls Robo's reason for excusing Crybit saying the N-word poor, but an edgy teenager and a grown adult aren't comparable. Wait, are you trying to say that you're just as childish as a teenager? But then she still confirms that she leaked shit, so what's the fucking point here? Okay, whatever. She talks further about the racism shit and drops yet another funny line. No, racism doesn't run through my veins. Good on ya. But then she does explain the weird racism runs in my family comment. It was supposedly about her growing up with toxic people that just kinda instilled that in her. Like, you're the only one, that isn't a fucking excuse! If everyone with racist parents turned out to also be a racist, there would only be racists on Earth right now. And then there's just more bitching about how Robo should not have recorded a private call. You should not have been such a fucking creep. Back to the mega thread. Now on Revie, she just says that it's not true, and then for some reason shows that it was Robo who she tried to manipulate. You realize this makes her look better, right? Next there's some claim that Robo deleted important context, no proof is given, while Robo literally proved that MMH did the same. Then Madman's trying to get some fucking brownie points by showing that she's willing to get in contact with Revie. What, so you can try to manipulate her too? Why would you need to talk to her? All you need to actually do is show the screen caps of your convo with her. Although considering your past, I still wouldn't trust that shit as you could easily delete some messages. Luckily, someone was insistent enough to not let Madman get anywhere near Revie. Madman then tries to write her fucking manipulation as very poor persuasion off. No, okay, no, fuck off. You try and fail to manipulate people more than you fucking breathe. Don't think any of us are dumb enough to fall for that shit. Then she acts like depressed people are incapable of suicide baiting and never addresses the supposed suicide baiting motive, which, may I remind you, was her trying to get on people's good sides after Robo's call out. Then, speaking of, if all this was true, why did you make that fucking suicide note instead of continuing to dig your fucking grave like this? Like, why did you jump from defending yourself to suicidal to defending yourself again? You didn't even choose how you defend yourself. It's still just your explanations with barely any evidence behind it. I'm sorry, but that just reeks of someone trying to change plans mid-battle and then realizing it's not working. But at least she proves that she takes drugs. That's something, I guess. Little does she know that proving she's a fucking liar doesn't help her case. Okay, this next one's actually interesting. Madman shows how Robo sends porn of her character to someone else, but then literally cuts out the important context, like this shit is literally what she's accusing Robo of. What the fuck, Madman? What are you trying to do here? And then she takes her full leave from Twitter and comes back hours later. Why, you might ask? Simple. Robo called her out again, and she talks about clearing up and disproving more shit. You failed to do so before, this is fucking embarrassing, Madman. She then even reacts to the call out by saying, "Funny you didn't acknowledge my points. I just did and they don't hold up in the slightest. I do not blame her on getting out more evidence instead of that." So, then, let's talk about that newest call out. Robo is actually being concise and just brings up the claims into evidence. Good on her. Madman uploaded porn of Robo's Sona to Rule 34, making her fapping to it a lot more likely. She also shows how Madman hid context behind why Robo sent that shit to her friend. She also, supposedly, kept touching her dick in a call with Neutrua. And finally, Robo ends that call out by showing how Madman broke down over how she kept leaking shit. Keep in mind, that claim was always based on her own words. And her even talking about some plan or vision with Exeternal, which sounds just a little weird in context, but maybe that's just me. So, speaking of her vision for Exeternal, what's up with it now? Okay, even after everything that Madman said, Neutrua says it's not cancelled, Raina said it wasn't cancelled but then deleted that tweet. For some reason people left the mod and even said that Mistful Crimson Morning, a notorious train wreck, had better development, which is hilarious. So yeah, if it goes out on a whimper, I'm not surprised. Now, speaking of Sonic.exe mod revive, wait, we're not done? Okay, one last update. Neutrua added Madman to a blacklist on the Exeternal server. There's a fuck ton of valid claims, but it's still hilarious. Now, apparently, that piece of shit Madman wanted to manipulate Neutrua when he's mentally down to take over the mod again. By the way, you might have noticed this in Robo's final callout. I didn't mention it there because it was always supposed to be mentioned here. Thanks, Robo. You really made this complicated. Also, apparently, this is just hearsay, but it could realistically be true. Madman supposedly leaked even more mods that we do not know of. Okay, now, speaking of Sonic.exe mod revivals, it's time we talk about Rerun.
Someone exposed the public server for Sonic.exe Rerun since the mods tolerated NSFW but also allowed minors in. Like, the server was 14 plus and there was a no NSFW rule, yet there was straight up pornography whilst mods were in the chat. Someone named PackGoat.exe posted the majority of it and never got banned for it. Hell, Nayu herself posted a video of someone twerking. Just wanted to mention this. People think this all made Shut Up JoJo Black Rerun devs, but from what we know that isn't the case. GameReal talked to Nayu about this whole thing. She didn't see the thread, but she still hates the server herself. The video she sent was of a random person twerking, but that doesn't change the fact that she sent it. Sometime after, she seemingly deleted the server. GameReal did not get permission to share this, but you'll see in a bit why neither of us care. Remember someone named Indeed? Yeah, he got thrown out of Rerun because he was given nothing to do. Apparently he joined because Rightburst offered him, who then came by to sort it out. Okay. One other person said it was a misunderstanding, another compared it to the original EXE team and how it had over 60 members. He was brought back in and deleted the tweet since people were obviously mad with the Rerun team. But then it happened again. A lot of shit was started for no reason, which made people feel unwelcome. Some even got thrown out just because the server was too big. Also, it's apparently run by screwing around. Clearly, no EXE mod is run well. Mudo claims this was a misunderstanding, but this is just a pattern by now. Also, one more thing. The former voice actor for Stranger, the literal face of the mod, popped a fucking blood vessel and the directors did not give a shit. I don't know all of the directors, but I know for sure Mudo, Nayu, and Rightburst are. Now back to how I said neither I nor GameReal care about Nayu's permission. Some random dumbass on DeviantArt called GameReal a pedo for no reason whatsoever. When that got shared and rightfully ridiculed on Twitter, Nayu responded with her personal DMs with GameReal about how he's older than her, saying that he's kinda weird. Now, is GameReal weird? Of course he is. But this context feels like you're trying to paint him as a pedophile, which is disgusting in its own right. Even if that wasn't the intention, you know it could have happened, why put it out there? Either way, leaking DMs for no reason is just stupid. Even if Gamereel's reason was pettiness, at least he actually had a reason. Luckily, Nayu got called out on it, but then changed the subject to Rightburst for some reason. Oh, and speaking of which...
Okay, Rightburst, let's do this. To be clear, right from the get-go, I will not harp on him too much. Like I said before, kid's been through way too fucking much. Remember, people harassed him because he thought he led the Revie slander, something I already proved wasn't true. This is just me neutrally criticizing his actions. Now, I already do not condone harassment towards anyone I criticize, but I will be explicitly clear with him. Do not fucking harass Rightburst. If you do, you're no better than False Cow, Kubikork, or Kenny. But I will allow myself some lighthearted jabs. Those are kinda necessary, aren't they? Now, let's get into it. Okay, let's start by me proving my hypotheses from the last video. Nayu confirmed him joining Rerun back in June. Avery confirmed he was kicked twice. And this last one is not an old claim, but him saying directing is hard is pretty funny considering he was literally kicked twice and lost the director position and ownership of the mod to Calm. I told you there would be some jabs. Okay, this next one's pretty interesting. When Revie left the internet, he confirmed that she is not a pedo. Now, when him calling her one in the Parallax talk is brought up, he didn't react, as far as I know. And to be clear, he was still openly spiteful towards her when she was called out. So take that how you will. Next, GPT Anon strikes again? Apparently Rightburst lied about not being in contact with Jesterfrog. I don't know, this evidence seems pretty flimsy. I just wanted to bring this up for completionist's sake, but I do not buy this one, like at all. Okay, here we go. Remember that Satanos and Sally Alt voice reel I mentioned back in the False Cow chapter? Rightburst also reacted, but he only threatened that actions will be taken instead of actually striking me. Yippee! He then says that it ain't right, even as a joke. People on the internet will leave anything they see. Yeah, Revie can confirm that.
You fool. Thanks for finally saying my name. You never did in regards to my original criticism, did you?
Yeah, funny. Gag. Over. But seriously, you guys were ready to mention Lenny, but not me, so me forcing a reaction somehow actually worked. Is it because you guys can talk shit about him because he's a leaker, or rather shares leaks, and my image is squeaky clean? But besides, for real now, who would want to steal a character made out of spite? Okay, this one's getting a bit mean, isn't it? I'm sorry, it's really not my intention. Okay, so after this whole situation, I joined a server to see what went on in there, and it was dead fucking silent, so me and some others just talked. As a joke, I added him and asked about Satanos, then got banned while I was sleeping once he was online. Now here's the weird thing, when someone pointed out that it was me, Rightburst thanked them, and then said something about raids for some reason. And the same day he made a tweet about being angry for no reason, which is probably a coincidence, but still, very funny. Now speaking of servers, in a completely different one, my video was shared and people talked about Rightburst as a reaction to it. Apparently he is a douche and people like Calm and Simply EJ just avoid him as a subject. Way to be fucking honest with someone, guys. Seriously, Rightburst is willing to publicly defend you and you just go behind his back like that. Don't pull this petty shit. Just say you don't like him and be done with it. Jesus, this is childish. Alright, let's get back to the dementia shit mentioned in the Jesterfrog chapter. When Exaburner called Rightburst out, Muto came in to quote-unquote explain the dementia shit. Apparently, Rightburst just mistook forgetfulness and dementia. That's not a mistake that should just happen like that. Also, forgetfulness ain't that big a deal. I myself am insanely forgetful, yet don't over-dramatize it. Oh, and by the way, once Rightburst's apology came out, Muto talked about everyone dogpiling on him without hearing him out. And that's kinda difficult when he prefers to be vague and not speak about his own side of things. Now, once someone calls Muto's defending of the dementia shit out by showing that people don't get regular dementia before their 30s, Muto responds with a website on childhood dementia, but misses the part where it says that the brain gradually degrades when it has the condition, meaning a 16-year-old with it should not be able to, for example, direct multiple mods. Once that is pointed out, Muto just says it can range from months to decades, which, yes, it can, but it starts early. Oh, and then he just has a random ass rant about the other person using a throwaway. What the fuck? And when he was asked for a better argument because the current one is kinda shit, Muto shows symptoms of ARBD, then pretending it has something to do with teenage dementia, even though it's a completely different disorder. Now, in case you're unaware, ARBD does not mean a Rightburst dick rider, even though that would fit to Muto. It's alcohol-related brain damage, sometimes also called wet brain syndrome. It's also only caused by alcohol, and teenagers shouldn't have it in general. And if a teen has ARBD and dementia, the prior caused the latter, not the other way around. Now, there's 4 options left based on what Muto is saying. 1. RB has insanely early normal dementia. 2. RB has childhood dementia and will kick the bucket in a couple of years. 3. RB has an insanely rare, almost safe version of childhood dementia. Or 4. God forbid, RB doesn't have dementia. Now, when I made a pretty fucking angry community post about it, Muto was very butthurt over it, and it showed. No, wait, dude, I called you a cocksucker, not a dick rider. I'm not that unoriginal in my shit. Okay, now, back to Rightburst. Let's wrap this chapter up with the final few points. Okay, for some context on this one. Uni was depressed to the point of being suicidal. Then someone quote retweeted that with saying, slow your roll. And Rightburst reacted with, this goofy ass MF brah. Needless to say, he got massive backlash and all hell broke loose on Twitter that day. Let's try to summarize this. First, he tried to play it off by saying, do y'all do any sports, but that was immediately called out. People then actively dropped him and left the mods he worked on. Suddenly, he talked about his grandma in DR and people called bullshit on that, but that's not confirmed nor deconfirmed. Anorak then made it about himself for some reason. Exaburner came back out of nowhere. We found some old tweets between Muto and Uni foreshadowing this shit. Calm made a whole thread about how angry he is and tells people to be better. When it's called out that we also talked about how he's not a swell dude, it turned out that other people also knew, but never spoke up due to cowardice, I guess? Then people say that the grandma thing is clearly not genuine, and one psychopath says that they can't wait until his grandma is deceased? What the fuck? Kenny gets pissy that someone mentions Revie in relation to this. Then, eventually, Rightburst drops an apology saying he apparently didn't read either Uni's tweet or the quote retweet he responded to before commenting. It's properly and respectfully criticized, which I'm happy over. Then Muto, cocksucker that he is, mocks the idea of Rightburst lying to save his ass. Like, look, I don't want to be negative to him anymore, but Rightburst is well known for not being 100% honest all of the time. Then Uni shares that she and Rightburst talked and cleared things up, which, hey, that's great. Good on you, Rightburst. I don't know if Rightburst actually did fail to read the tweet properly. It's, however, still genuinely good that this was cleared up. However, this means this was either malice or a massive fucking mistake on Rightburst's side. I'll be so nice to assume the latter, but it's still a fuck up he needs to learn from. Then, however, one day, out of nowhere, Rightburst dropped a scheduled tweet announcing his own suicide. He talked about how the community completely ruined his life and how he's actually going through with it this time as people don't care anyway. Despite what he said, he's still alive. Before he spoke up, people found out that it was apparently caused by loneliness due to a friend moving away. Now I'm gonna say that this was probably not attention grabby shit, but instead just a final problem that broke him, considering he has actually been heavily harassed and abused. This eventually led to an admittedly comical trilogy of tweets. So then Nayu ranted about this and made a valid point on how he has been mistreated, but I'll still get to you, you piece of shit. And Muto also ranted about this, making an equally valid point about Rightburst being mistreated. But then that shithead blamed me and Lenny, which is a fucking terrible accusation that genuinely offends me.
And I've never said this unironically, but I think this will be the first time I actually say it unironically and mean it. Kill yourself.
And despite how shit I am at conveying that in my tone of voice, I'm serious in this. I know what it's like to be harassed as a minor. I know what abuse feels like. Do not ever imply I would bring someone close to suicide. Fuck you, Muto. Genuinely fuck you. Then, when someone rightfully questions that, he doubles down, saying shit like, you have no fucking clue the amount of shit that goes on behind the scenes with them and Rightburst. When they are in his DMs every fucking week trying to get something out of him, then that's fucked up. He even purposefully misinterprets my call-out post towards him as a promise to harass Rightburst off the internet. Yes, this has to be on purpose, as I don't have a precedent of harassment and only promise to make sure he can't ever return, which would, as previously, be through exposed videos. And yes, I have to admit, I'm definitely very horrible to him in the ends. He gets such terrible harassment from me, like me saying that I'm happy he's still alive. Like, check the dates. This was before Muto's filthy thread, so don't even bother making shit up like I'm doing this to save face. This was me being genuine. So, Muto, you either knowingly lied or made shit up about something you knew nothing about. Pick your fucking poison. Eventually, and I'm only saying this for the sake of fairness, he did try to reach out to me, but I declined as the tweets were still online, making me doubt his intentions. Back to topic though. I wish Rightburst all the best. Please get better soon. This next one will be the final subject about him, I promise. Now, back when everyone thought Twitter was dying, Rightburst made a joke about Revie being actually innocent. Muto and Nayu then joined in on the joke, but considering how shortly it was after the almost suicide he committed, he was rightfully called out on it. He then apologized, which is kind of weird. What do you mean by this time? But one certain cunt didn't feel like it. After people called it out, Nayu got insanely defensive about it. She goes on and on explaining why it's fine, ignoring the issue that everyone now knows that Revie was slandered and that Rightburst played a part in it, making this joke pretty fucking disgusting. Suddenly, she talks about people hating on Rightburst for no reason? What? But seriously, she turns this shit joke into a Rightburst defense show for some weird ass reason. And I have a good guess as to why, but we'll talk about that in a second. I swear to God, I remember her admitting that she had the idea for the joke, but I lost that tweet, sadly enough. Now ain't all that wacky. Anywho, after this joke and the backlash, Rightburst went on a hiatus as far as I know. Good for him, he needed that break. Now let's talk about the people supporting him, using one special example as a case study. Okay, as it's becoming a fucking pattern at this point, let's start with some context. Lenny found out that this following person leaked private info between us. I then tried to confront them as I considered him a friend until then. Turns out they pretended to be a Revie defender but were actually on Rightburst's side. However, to make sure they don't get harassed, I will be keeping them anonymous. Now let's get to it. They quickly say that they blocked Lenny because he got really fucking annoying, which would make sense on its own, but you'll see why that's likely bullshit later. They said that they had lots of evidence proving nominal innocence, 3.9 fucking gigabytes, the hell, and then deleted it all. First of all, deleting that shit makes no sense in any context. Why would anyone delete unreleased evidence? Second, 3.9 gigabytes. My 1.1 thousand screenshots, 2 videos and 10 plus docs for this video alone are barely 260 megabytes. Who the fuck are you trying to fool? Unless you seriously mean you somehow have 24,000 screenshots. When I asked why they deleted all their messages with Lenny, they said that they thought he'd use it against them? What the fuck did you say for him to be able to use it against you? They also then defend Rightburst's memory issues, but fuck up in that, because forgetting something in 40 minutes is actually a great fucking track record. Seriously, is this brain a fucking hard drive? I struggle with remembering the topic of the conversation after just seconds. Also, him organizing the mod servers doesn't sound like what the ex-Rerun members said. Then we discussed some DWR doc. They saw a small tidbit, yet were apparently fully convinced it's bulletproof. And it was going to be turned into a video, which is apparently going to be 3 hours long. Now, I do not know how long this video you're watching right now will be in total, but I am certain that by now, Lenny, Toastify and I definitely have 3 hours long beat. I then made the point that they could have easily given that info to at least Toastify in private, something I still stand behind as he's still working on that fucking video, at the time of recording at least. But they just say, just wait for the counterclaims. Like bitch, I made the counterclaims, Lenny made the counterclaims, Toastify made the counterstreams, FalseCount and Co made the original claims. Also, they just had so much fucking time for this already. Half a fucking year has passed since Lenny's original video. And what we have now, a secret response hidden from the public for next to no proper reason. Now, they say that they wanted to get a Rightburst to make a public statement ASAP, which, as you might know, never happened. Then I make like some throwaway comment towards Rightburst's hate boner for JoJo, which that supporter doubles down on, calling JoJo a dick, something I personally, from my own experience with JoJo, consider out of character for them. They even say something about JoJo first being friends with Rightburst and then dropping them once they got popular. That whole part of the convo made me concerned, keep that in mind for later. But despite all that, I still considered them a friend to some part, not anymore but whatever, so I warned them from trusting Rightburst. Keep in mind, I still thought he was the main man behind the Revie situation back then. Now apparently what Rightburst showed them lined up with their own evidence, which they deleted so we can't check, put deleted in quotes, I still don't think it's real. But since they told me about a campaign they planned against Rightburst, I kept drilling him with questions. They said that they had evidence against him, but that was apparently just someone pretending to be him. I then asked for that evidence. They say again that it's all gone, all 3.9 gigabytes. We then keep talking about the evidence. They say that Nominal said make it public or no one should have it, so they deleted it. First of all, Nominal never said that. That's just a lie. But even then, they said they pissed him off. Which, why would they listen during an argument when not all the evidence has to do with him? Now, once I question their story, they get insanely defensive, like borderline mental breakdown. They get pissed, call me just as annoying as Lenny, and then block me. Now, I don't need to tell you that honest people don't fucking act like this. The story made so little sense that just a couple questions broke it into pieces. Now, let's quickly talk about the JoJo portion because I am in contact with them. I tell JoJo what I've been told, they explain it in detail with screen caps. Turns out they were never close at all to Rightburst, only acquaintances. Eventually, JoJo distanced themselves from the team because they didn't want to get involved in the Revie Shit. They sent a screen cap of a convo from literally the last day of 2021, showing they barely talked before and were on good terms. In fact, they apparently barely knew each other at that point. Later on in April, they had another pretty interesting convo. It was generally about how Rightburst should handle the mod. That was apparently the only other time they were serious about stuff with Rightburst. Wait a second. Upton? The exit team knew that Upton was a sexual harasser, talked about it, and still fucking kept him? And Rightburst publicly supported him, despite also knowing? Okay, no, I'm not fully serious about this. Considering how shit that 133 page doc is, Rightburst had every reason to doubt Upton is a piece of shit, but he definitely is. I still think this was a massive fuck up on Rightburst's part, but I'm willing to assume it wasn't intentional. Now, on to the point of this chapter. The convo I had with that person reveals that even Exit Dev fans can be scummy. Of fucking course, not all of them, this is most likely a minority, but it still happens. So, to wrap things up, no, you didn't actually think I forgot that DWR thing. Let's talk about it, because the Revie situation is, in fact, still not fucking over. DWR, short for Down with Revie, is a doc that Rightburst, Foscow, and some others worked on to quote-unquote prove that Revie is guilty. Like that Rightburst supporter from the last chapter said before, it was meant to become a video, one Crybit would edit. This is where this comment, you might have seen somewhere else before, comes in. And I just want to say quickly, as a note, once more, do not harass Crybit or anyone else. I swear to God. Now, when Lenny asked Rightburst for the stock, its existence was confirmed, but Lenny was immediately blocked. Funnily enough, Rightburst later deleted all messages, which isn't even remotely suspicious. Now, realistically, this stock should no longer be in production. Rightburst can't be involved due to his mental state, and many others just can't be involved because of, the Exaburner callout forcing them to go into hiding. So let's talk about why it is likely still going. The reason is the new guy who runs it. Joda Boy, the creator of Lord X and PC Port, as well as the current co-owner of Sonic.exe in general. But now, why would Joe do that? That's simple, he has a personal grudge against Revie. He says that Faker impacted him in such an uncomfortable way, which, let's be real, just means Revie did something, because not even he can separate the art from the artist. Plus, remember, he was part of the original callout. False Cow even quote retweeted him in it. And yes, that may not have to mean much, but Joe used the word "we" multiple times, making it clear that he was involved. Also, small callback to my very first video on this drama back in August. Remember how he basically admitted that they rushed the callout so that Revie wouldn't have time to defend herself? I do. Now, of fucking course, that's just speculation. There's no way to easily prove that he's even involved in this, right? Here's an email Joe sent to Toastify about DWR asking him to slow down on his video production. Funny thing to note, he makes it very clear he wants Toastify to take his sweet ass time with this video. He also tells Toastify to not share anything with Revie if he's in contact with her, which is disgustingly dishonest. Are you still trying to not let her defend herself? Now, since the doc is still not out, let's just be honest and say that this was meant to buy time and hopefully make everyone forget about the situation. Fuck you, Joe. Genuinely. Wait, hold on. This is the neutral party that False Cow mentioned in his doc? Oh, come on. But seriously, Joe is such a massive shithead for this alone. Then there's also the fact that he's the owner of Code of X, the server Exaburner exposed, meaning that he just allowed Just a Frog back in like that despite likely knowing she's a pedo. But you wanna know what's funny? You wanna know what's fucking funny? He's a dickhead in other ways too! Okay, as a quick warning, this is the part that made me add child exploitation to the trigger warnings. Whether or not it actually counts as such is up to you. Either way, I consider it hella scummy. One random day on Twitter, a teen called Nirivo talked about her own experiences with Revie, calling her an ass. Her experience is about how when she was 9, too young for Discord, Revie made fun of her being so young, so she abused her mod powers and Joe got pissed. Then she says that she worked on PC port at the time. Likely the original, not the remake. Keep in mind, she just said she was fucking 9 at the time. And no, her being on the internet since they were 5 ain't no fucking excuse. No 9-year-old should work on PC port. Now, that could just be a lie for attention, so let's investigate. Weirdly enough, there isn't any public credits list for PC port, which is kinda fucked on its own, but whatever. Let's investigate this ourselves then. By the way, I had a couple people help me investigate this. Thanks guys, I'm not gonna name you so that you don't get harassed, but I couldn't have done it without you. So, first of all, here's proof that she was 13 around July of this year, confirming her age. Next, we're gonna have to check who exactly Nirivo is. Now, the name isn't spread that far, but on the Game Banana page for some FNF Creepypasta Collection mod, I found Steak/Nirivo as the main musician with a linked Twitter account called @Nirivo, meaning this is likely the same person and that she's also called Steak. That name is a lot more prevalent, so it's time to get cracking. Now, when looking for it, we found this list of people with an @lolman69204 as Steak. The age stated on that account, 13, matches up, so this is likely Nirivo. There's probably even more Twitter accounts we can find, like this band @NirivoNew, or this not band @Lolaleluja321 with the nickname Steak, which seems involved with PC port in some way, but this could be a coincidence. Also, to prove this is the same Steak, on PC port's itch.io page, I found a Steak man speaking of the PC port Discord. When you investigate that account, you see the @Lolaleluja321 Twitter account linked. So let's go into that server and keep investigating. On that server, there is someone called Nirivo who is also 13 and uses the same profile pic as @lolman69204, once again showing a connection. Also, note the consistency of Nirivo and Steak always being a musician. What we also find is literally a message from August 2021 confirming Steak was on the team, meaning they worked on it until they were 12 or 13. Meaning they worked on PC port at least 3 to 4 years, and weren't even 14 yet, by the way. Although we really didn't even need to look on the server. Joe literally acknowledged and credited @Lolaleluja321, one of Nirivo's accounts, for music, keeping the same consistency. So, finally, this is it, right? There's still another doc in production that Falscow set into motion and Joe is now continuing. But honestly, unless it explicitly confirms the Kubicork and Dreamy Carrots grooming allegations, don't fucking bother, because those were still lies and slander otherwise. And keeping Falscow's 133 page doc on Jasper in mind, it'll likely just be a cheap attempt at reiterating on the previous points. So is that really all? Wait, no? Okay, once again, for context. One day, a couple people on both sides, including Rightburst and that supporter I showed you before, decided to make a truce. For it, all sides would cease talking about the Revie situation, essentially resolving it. This was both insanely stupid and insanely gullible, but it seemed to almost work. But since I was unhappy with being barely involved in its creation yet also having to keep my part in it, I got in contact with Rightburst through Nayu, and this subchapter is about what happened. So I got into a group chat with Rightburst and Nayu. I showed before how this was the real Rightburst and I don't even need to confirm Nayu myself. She's the one who leaked the M's first, so that basically proves this is real. I ask what the truce is about. Rightburst says he basically just wants to move on. He left the DWR project, so he doesn't know what has happened to it. He also confirms that Falscow played a huge role in it. Then we had like a small tangent about that supporter, we'll skip right through that. After that, Rightburst explains that the truce is just what I thought it would be, so I bring up the damage, quote-unquote, his slander campaign on Revie did. Then he tells me that Revie apparently made him suicidal. Jesus fucking Christ. However, I still stand by my two wrongs still don't make a right comment. That's just, a fact. There's another small tangent on how Lullaby, remember that from Madman's chapter, might have gone differently if Revie wasn't cancelled. She was the director after all. Now after that second tangent, I bring up my 3 conditions to accept this truce. 1. A public apology for the slander. 2. The DWR doc. 3. Falscow taking his final doc down. He responds with the following things. 1. What do you mean slander? 2. DWR isn't his doing. Yeah, it's Falscow's, that's true. and 3. Falscow's actions aren't his responsibility. That's fair, I just hoped Rightburst could convince him to. We then talk a little about why I still kept going with the drama even though Revie wanted to move on. I bring up Com's statement and get a pretty sizable response. He tells the whole story about the group chat with Falscow, Kubicork, Dreamy Carrots and Jasper, something I later confirmed with Jasper himself. His own personal story is also told with Revie abusing him, which, if true, is really fucked of her. And, surprisingly enough, he's actually mature on wanting to drop it for everyone's sake. Which, hey, genuinely good on you, dude. And I'm not being ironic, that is definitely a respectable move. I quickly empathize with him, but ruining her life was still unnecessary despite what she may have done. He seems to genuinely understand that, which makes me happy. I then tell him that he should have spoken out about what she actually did, but apparently he couldn't as the whole team was on his ass when he did, scolding him. He apparently genuinely tried to speak up, but she supposedly used group chats to get everyone up against him. Also, she went to his private friend service and slandered him to his friends. I expressed my doubts, but when we kept discussing everything, Nayu came in to break it apart, but we both wanted to properly talk through it. When I asked about a point of origin for his and Revie's beef, he didn't remember it. Still, I give him the option to publicize this story, and yeah, I guess sorry for doing so without your consent to it, but I think this was ultimately the right thing to do. This all then ends peacefully, and after I sleep a night over it and talk with Jasper, I'm for the truce and hatch a plan to get him out of the drama. Eventually, he agreed to it, he just wanted to wait until the situation's calmed down. He thanks me for coming to him, and I thank him for giving me his side. In the end, we both agreed to that plan. So why did nothing come from it? Out of nowhere, on November 4th, Nayu came in and told me to grow up and move on. Afterwards, she dropped more nuggets of wisdom like it would actually bring their drama back to light. Bro, it still is at light a whole year after it happened. What the fuck do you mean? She also randomly acts like I'm threatening to harass Rightburst and straight up pretends that my offer to get Rightburst out of the drama is blackmail. I say that people will keep harassing him if this doesn't happen. She says that he's perfectly fine until something like me or Egg wanting to talk happens. Yeah, sure, and his suicide attempt is definitely not proof that he's mentally fucked. There's also more random shit about that Rightburst supporter, and Nayu just says I forgot when I remind her that I said they're manipulative. Nayu then asks why I want the apology. I repeat myself and say that it's to get Rightburst out of harm's way. She speaks of how Twitter always harasses people, and yeah, you'd fucking know, you tried to contribute getting me harassed with that DM leak. She then says that she's fine with him revealing the whole story, but denies the apology. I go along with it, but she then randomly talks about the 4-hour-long full story. You mean DWR? She also says that Rightburst would be more in the right than anyone else, which, yeah sure buddy, definitely. Nayu asks me if I know the full story, she stops me from giving her the proper answer I'm trying to give her, and then I do it anyway because fuck her, how could I possibly know if Rightburst never talked? I then say that the Falscow threat was either way lies and slander, and Nayu randomly doesn't know what it has to do with Rightburst? Like, he said he was part of it in this very same group chat. Rightburst then sends a few messages explaining his situation, including a couple screenshots that were deleted before I could screenshot this. But Nayu tells him to shut up, and then immediately those got deleted. What the fuck? Suddenly, she comes back and says that Rightburst will explain himself, but no apologies, because he apparently won't need to. Which, slander is slander, you childish twat! But whatever, I made that same offer, so I agreed. At the end, all I wanted was fucking honesty. So yeah, Rightburst was fully willing to apologize and leave it behind, and Nayu, like a dipshit, refuses to let him. To explain why this is stupid, if Rightburst tells the full story but doesn't apologize for the slander, then he will still be criticized for it. Seriously, slander is slander, regardless of context. However, if he apologized and I quote-unquote confirmed that apology, people would finally be satisfied with Rightburst and leave him alone. However, Nayu only cares about Rightburst's image, not his well-being. This is so clearly just about Rightburst not looking like he fucked up to the last few people still supporting him. And I swear to God, this is hopefully just a crack theory of mine. But if this is just about not wanting Rerun to look bad by association, I will fucking strangle Nayu. Why did I have to do what I could to help Rightburst with his mental health when these two are IRL friends? Okay, finally, let's wrap up Revie for good. Is what I wanted to say, but then Rightburst and Nayu pulled a disgusting stunt that I just added to the script. Let's fucking do this. When a Revie defender shared me saying that Rightburst wasn't the mastermind behind the Revie situation and wanted to stop the Rightburst hate, Nayu quote retweeted it. She basically repeats the same shit from the statement he gave to me in the group chat, then goes and looks for the statement. She pulls out a similar but different statement, and you can see it's from a server and not from a group chat as his name has color here. The weird part is how most of it is literally copy pasted, but there are slight differences. Everything that relates specifically to me was cut out, and instead more waffling about and the random accusation that Rev sent him censored furry porn was thrown in. I first thought that he copy-pasted it from our group chat and tried to make himself look better and Rev look worse by adding lies he thought I'd see right through, but then I saw the date. Our group chat was on October 24th. If for whatever reason you do not believe me, you can just check my recording of scrolling through the group chat to check it. However, this statement was either October 12th or the 10th of December, the former being a lot more likely here. That would mean he took around 50 minutes to copy-paste that statement into our group chat, cut out the bullshit, and then added flavored text to make it look like he wrote it for me specifically. Okay, by the way, people asked for proof on the furry porn shit for good reason, so now you actually delivered. God damn, respect. Wait, that says deleted user, not Revie. Yeah, her old account is definitely deleted, but there are many deleted accounts. Then, ironically enough, a Rightburst supporter mocked the idea of asking for proof it, sir. Nayu actually looks for it. That supporter for some reason says, only if you want, I trust you anyway, which is hilarious and show that they aren't actually confident in this. And then, holy shit, Nayu actually provides the ID of the account and proves it's Revie. Or, nah, neither the ID nor the creation date match Revie's actual account. Now, the person who pointed this out says, hey, I want to believe you. Please show a video of you copying the idea of the message. The general openness to anti-Revie proof is met with an I don't care enough to look for it by Nayu. Luckily, she eventually realized how bad this made her look, so she came back to the convo, leading to a massive discussion on whether or not this is actually Revie. I will say though that the ID that Nayu originally posted is just the normal deleted user ID, not the specific one of the account that can still be checked, so who knows. But that's irrelevant. For the sake of argument, let me play devil's advocate and say that this is, in fact, Revie. Still, this callout would have a couple issues. First of all, that shit's censored. This isn't gonna fuck a teen over mentally, especially not Rightburst. If Revie was actually malicious in this, she would have just not censored it. Also, everyone knows she was fucking weird back then. Otherwise we wouldn't have glorious comments like grow hair now. So this could have realistically just been her type of humor. Also, there's just no context given, even though there could have realistically been some through voice chat. And since Rev is gone, Rightburst abuses that in his favor. Besides, Rightburst likes uncensored NSFW shit on his main, even straight up porn, exposing his over 20,000 Twitter followers to this bullshit. And since a good chunk of those are most likely minors, this means he's actively causing more damage than Revie ever could. You fucking hypocrites. Also just, the fact that this was only revealed over a year after it originally happened, and almost a year after the false cow thread, is more than just suspicious. Meanwhile, Nayu frames this so that Revie looks like Jeffrey fucking Epstein. And for some reason, Nayu still tries to keep that facade of not caring about all this in a deleted tweet. Well bitch, this is me forcing you to care. Get fucked, you filthy liar. And you too, Rightburst, go fuck yourself. I was gonna be positive to you because I thought you learned your lesson, yet here we fucking are. But you made one fatal mistake. Nobody betrays my trust and gets away with it. Hoo boy, okay, we're adding one more part to this fucking video. Very recently, like literally hours ago, Rightburst dropped a final statement. It also doubles as his final apology and admittance to what he did. The two main points it covers are the dementia shit and the Revie situation. Overall, I think it's a damn good apology and a very great first step towards improving himself. Of course, there's also the elephant in the room that, he only did that in January 2023, when the situation has been going on since January 2022. Whether it's too little too late is up to you. I'm not going to make that judgment for anyone else. I can however say that I deeply respect him for finally fucking making one. Sure, I told him to make one back in October and he waited way too long, but better late than never, I guess. Also, if you take this as a chance to fucking harass him, then please go fuck yourself. This is literally what we've wanted, or at least what I've wanted for ages. If you're just here for the sake of hating and harassing someone, then kindly get the fuck off the internet. Nobody needs you here. Whether you're willing to forgive Rightburst is up to you. I personally do not, but I am willing to respect him for finally fucking talking. For actually using the chance the Toastify video gave him and coming clean. Congratulations, Rightburst. In the end, you managed to show maturity that not even literal adults in this community possessed. Jesus fucking Christ. Okay, let's actually wrap this shit up now. The Revie situation is just lies after lies with just another slander dog to double down if Jasper is anything to go by. This is even insanely hypocritical, as not only are these cunts horrible people, but nobody ever cared to check Jester Frost's case. Instead, she was just fucking supported. Also, may I just say, everyone else's misdeeds get forgotten, for example MarioBot, but Revie is eternally exiled. Everyone on the side against Revie keeps lying about the weirdest shit. You know, like the server organization that Rightburst supporter lied about. And since the situation has been handled so fucking horribly, now there's this bitch Madman trying to act like she was framed too. Fucking hell, even the co-owner of Sonic.exe himself is now in on this shit. For fuck's sake. By the way, small fun fact, but Nayo revealed that Kubi started this bullshit over a fucking Minecraft grieving. That, by the way, Kubi apparently even started. But that's a discussion someone else can have. I am so done with the Revie drama. This community is fucked. And Revie isn't even the only time this has happened. It's time we talk about Nominal Dingus and Infinite Jr.